Welcome to Kidmin Backstage, the place where we talk about kids ministry and take a peek behind the scenes. We try to share a little bit of what we've learned that works for us and some of our failures so you can avoid them. We release a new episode every Friday, and this is your backstage pass to see the magic or disaster that happens behind the scenes of our kids ministry. I'm your host, Gabe Baker, and today I am joined by brother Aaron Boggs. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Got you hid your Red Bull.
Yeah, we're not a sponsor, okay.
So I got my cup out here. Desperately need it. All right, well, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about embrace the epic.
Embrace the epic. Mm-hmm. So I think that some of the most memorable children's productions, and I say it that way because that's what we do in our Sunday schools. We kind of do a big production. Sometimes the biggest or coolest ones come from like the just small little side idea, you know, this little thing that happens. And so when we're directing our Sunday school, the magic often ties into making these seemingly like insignificant little details, a quick joke, a minor character interaction, or just a fleeting moment, and transforming these into this big, huge, spectacular idea. Yeah. And so we can thrive on this amplification, I guess, and making these things big. And so this can make for unforgettable experiences, and just these little tiny details.
Small details, yeah. I remember I tend to, for whatever reason, if I'm playing like not a main character, if I'm like a guard or a servant or something, I'm not going to do it here, but I have a voice I always do. Very high-pitched, almost Mickey Mouse, curly Three Stooges kind of voice. And I think and this is just a small thing, but the kids like almost expect it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like such a small little thing. And I think the reason why I kept doing it is because of the interaction, the response that I got with it. Yeah, yeah. Like, that is so funny. So just a small little thing like that kind of carries over week to week to week, and even theme to theme, because the kids just expect it, Yeah,
they expect it and they like it. You know, they're like, oh yeah, I remember this character. Oh, it's going to be funny. Yeah. I remember, you said Mickey Mouse, and I don't remember what character it was, but Brother Brent did like, it was totally like a Mickey Mouse, and I can't remember what it was like. It's like a small little bit, but it was really funny.
It stands out. Yeah.
and actually, speaking of Brother Brent, just not too long ago, he was he was Goliath.
Oh yeah.
And so he was doing his big laugh, or we had practiced it even. Yeah. And Adrian on the soundboard was going to do like this echo. Well, he wasn't there yet or forgot or something, but he's like laughing, like kind of mocking them. And so it was more high pitched, like, you guys. And then it echoes and he's like, he just goes deeper, trying to make it better. It was funny.
Oh yeah.
But okay. So, our first point is amplify small things. And so our scripting, the way that we script is really bullet pointed, kind of like our script for our podcast too. Yeah. But we just it's high level bullet points. We don't really rarely do we do monologue or like actually go through. We do that in practice. And so the idea is kind of the script is this framework, and then we had a podcast on how important practice is. Yes. That's how we utilize it. And I know every Sunday school can't practice, but that's how we utilize our practice is instead of doing, now we do a whole bunch of ad lib live. Oh yeah. We do that. But instead of just doing it live, we try to ad lib some stuff that becomes now a part of the script, even though it's not typed. Right. It becomes part of the script. It becomes part of what we're going to do. Yeah. Because we ad-libbed it in practice.
Yes. Well, what that does too is opens up creativity, because we're like, okay, what would be funny in this moment? What could we do? Like, just thinking like, say, Paul and Silas. If you really start thinking about that was a horrible situation. Yes. That's very dirty, very dark, gross, just depressing almost. Yeah. And then they decided to praise God, which we know the end of the story. But how funny it would be in those moments to like, you don't want to like minimize their spirituality, but act like there's a rat running around and one of them's just scared to death. You know, little things like that come up in practice because we're practicing that part.
Yeah.
And
we're usually kind of tired.
Yeah, we're usually trying to get our caffeine in. And then we're like, oh yeah, that would be funny. And someone over here is like, oh, what if you did this? And so then that creative juice starts flowing, and then it carries over into
and like what you said, a lot of times that's how, like, oh, what if you did this, you know, as it's going, and it's a group effort. Yeah. And they're not even part of that scene, but they're just like, oh, this would be funny. And not just funny, like even like, oh, well, this would be cool, you know, or whatever. And then it gives us something. And I think the other idea is that we like ad lib. Yes. And Sunday school, anybody that's in children's ministry understands ad lib, whether they're good at it or not. They understand ad lib and probably use it. Yeah. And we use it a ton, like I said, even live, unpracticed. But what our practice does for us is it allows us to do ad lib and maybe push the envelope where it's a mistake, but we can make the mistake in practice. Yes. And so we can do something that's dumb and be like, okay, well, let's not do that. Yeah. You know, and we've had that. We've had it like where somebody will say something, I'm like, no, that's not really the focus. Or
it sounds really good in your head, but when you say it, you're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, and you could have done that live, and then it wouldn't necessarily be a disaster, but it would be like, you know, it wouldn't follow what we're trying to do.
Wouldn't flow, yeah.
And so that's kind of the advantage of practice. And then what you kind of said, like I wrote a small reference to like a villain sidekick could involve to a whole scene.
And this has.
Into their whole like subplot. Yep. Well, I thought about that with the rat, what you just said is that, and we've done, like you said, we've done this before, is where we'll take it further. And so it's like, it was so funny in the practice, in the jail scene, that we're like, okay, let's add to dynamic opening. Let's add a rat thing, you know, or whatever. Yeah. And so we'll add this as like this B plot that's going on through.
I could see that, and I'm sure we've done this before. I'm like, you think somebody that's pretty, like say John Keach or someone that's a little bigger and stronger, probably, even though he's getting old. Yeah. Like it would be so funny in those moments to be like, okay, during offering, the rat's going to come out at some point. It doesn't have anything to do with the script. It has nothing to do with offering. It's just a comedic moment, and like somebody run and jump in his arms, you know, just and like the kids are just rolling.
Help! Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's a rat. What?
Trying to steal my offering.
And then it sets up for later when he's so scared of the rat.
There's a rat.
We got to do this. I don't know when we're doing Paul and Silas next, but that would be. Speaking of Paul and Silas, I remember we did. Of course, you sing a lot and play music, and so we took advantage of that. We usually try to take advantage of that in Sunday school and have you lead or whatever. But we did. Do you remember? We probably more than once. But do you remember when we did? What's this? Oh, Eddie James, Freedom. That song,
Oh, yes.
And we did that song right over the jailbreak, and you're like, you're singing that. You and somebody, I can't remember.
I think it's me and Brennan, I want to think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was you and Brennan. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Then we had a shout down, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
I think it switched to shout music. Maybe this was a different time. Break. Yeah, I had a praise break, and we took off dancing. That was fun.
Oh, man. Yeah. So you can definitely take these small elements, and sometimes it's completely unintentional, but the way to, I guess, as far as like where this podcast is useful, is having an open mind for that stuff. Yeah. Is where, you know, and a lot of it we're thinking of as funny stuff, but even if it's not, like, okay, we just did a fight scene with the it was in Narnia. We did a fight scene between Peter and the wolf. Yeah. And so I don't remember where it came from, but we were in practice and we were talking about it, and like maybe Brennan was the wolf, and he was like, maybe I could grab a sword. I said, well, that would be okay, because in Narnia they're kind of like humanistic animals anyway. Right. And so he ended up not, but I think it helped inform the fight scene, because he was, instead of like trying to be on hands and knees or something, he was on his feet. Sure. And they did this epic fight scene. And then where it came to me was we had done a play a long time ago for youth. I I think it was with Brother Jared Kasinger, but where we did this, we like practiced and everything, but where you fall backwards and the person's attacking you, and then you flip them over.
Oh yeah.
And they do. It's really on them to do the most of the work, but they flip over. So we did that.
Oh, nice.
So the wolf gets flipped over, and then Dawson grabs his sword, comes up, and and kills him.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was, and that was talking about embrace the epicness. That was epic. It was like it was so cool.
Kids going crazy.
The kids were they were on the edge of their they were sitting on the floor, but they were on the edge of their knees, and so they loved it. And it was like we didn't practice that part because they were like in their suits and stuff.
Yeah.
So we didn't practice that, but we knew what we were going to do.
Sure.
But the whole thing, and I don't know, I forgot. I need to ask him. But right in the beginning, Dawson played part of Peter, and he lost his sword.
Oh no!
Like Brennan hit it out of his hand, and a kid grabbed it and handed it to Dawson. So Dawson grabs it. I don't know if it was planned or not, but it was pretty cool.
Well, I think so. It kind of brought to mind there. The last point on that one is not that scripting and monologues and lines are wrong, but it really restricts the ability to flow like that and create those epic moments, because you're like, oh, I can't do that, I got to stay on my lines, or oh, if I do that, we're going to go over time, and they'll come in late, and it just kind of snowballs. So there's almost a pressure to perform rather than just let it flow naturally. Yeah,
and I would say on the flip side of that too is I think that so there's two things. There's one, there's some people who get a script and they want to read the script.
Yeah.
And so like I'm part of the team that's working on Acts in Action curriculum. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we said, and we do a lot of bullet points in that too, one of the things we said is we don't want it to be something that you hand a teacher and that they can read it.
Yes.
We want it to be action items that you do. And so, because people on the team had talked about with like different style classrooms, usually maybe smaller classrooms and more separated out, like we do more big and broad age range.
Yeah.
But with these smaller classrooms where they would almost catch the teacher like reading out of this book. Sure. And so that's one of the things with our scripts, the way they're written is, to your point, it's not restrictive. It's like, it's pretty broad. Like we have a direction we're going.
Right.
But it's pretty broad. And then the practice, I think, preps us even more so that we're, it's like we know more along the lines of what we're going to do, but it also gives us, we have such a comfort level with what we're going to do that it gives us free reign.
Yeah.
Whereas if something is like, okay, hey, here's the subject, we're talking about Holy Ghost today, and this is the Bible story, and it's all ad lib. Yeah, I think it actually can restrict you more because you're like trying
there's no clear direction.
Yeah, there's no clear. Yeah, and you're trying to find your way. It's almost like I think like a budget, but I was thinking of time. Like some people feel restricted by a to-do list or time blocking or something, which I use a lot, and time blocking or something method like that actually frees you up.
Absolutely.
Because it gives you like this focused time to do things, and so anyway, not to get off subject, but yeah, I think that was a really good point. I think that we can be restricted in two ways. One is if we're trying to do a verbatim script where it's so important that we are just like following this monologue or whatever, or where you just like throw it to the wind and
it's 2 points for the hour.
Yeah, and you don't have anything. So okay, so the next point number 2, creating visual spectacle.
Yeah.
So this is something that we kind of have done from the beginning. So like I put like, what if instead of a tree in the corner, you create a forest?
Sure.
And this is kind of what we did. We started with Kids Power Hour by Pentecostal Publishing House. That's how we started this style of Sunday school that we do. And we did like 2 or 3 themes from them, and then we started writing our own pretty early on. But even in the very first one, it was a boat one, and I don't remember for sure, but I think that it called for basically like a boat in a corner, like a big decoration
Sides.
or whatever. And so right out of the gate, we built this boat that you could fit, I don't know, at the time, probably 40 kids or something, but you could fit all the kids into.
Yep.
And so it was this big boat, and then we had, I think that was that the one where we did the blue plastic on the ceiling for the sky, and then we had water, we had an island. So we had this room that was, I don't know, 30 by 30 roughly. It wasn't square, but it was roughly that size. And the whole room was decorated.
Everything.
I mean, everything. Like you came in the door, there was a bubble machine.
Yeah.
And there was that. You remember the planks that you would walk on? You could actually roll them up.
You could. They were like from pallets, I think. And
yeah, so it was pieces of wood from pallet or something, and then I think it was fire hose.
Yeah, it's very heavy duty.
Yeah, it was like a heavy duty. And so picture, this is something somebody could use, is because we had to set
pallets
up.
are free.
Yeah, pallets are free. And we had to set up every week and take down every week. And so it was like, I don't know, maybe 2 feet wide probably. It wasn't really wide. 2 feet wide and little boards. And then picture rolling a fire hose down on each end of those and then screwing them in.
Yeah.
And then you flip that over and you have this gangplank. And it was like a boardwalk.
Yeah.
And then you could roll it up for storage. And so
handy.
We had that for a long time. We used it for other themes and everything. So, yeah, that was really cool. We might do that again. That was really neat. I think
really neat.
We might have laid blue plastic or tarps under it because it was like you're walking over the water. So it wasn't like 3D or anything, but it was kind of cool. I remember, and when we started with that, I wasn't in Sunday school, but
Who was in it?
Pastor. Before he was pastor, he started.
He was not even pastoring.
Yeah, he started the Sunday school back then. But I had my hands on everything in the church. It seems like so. I was helping with setup and stuff, and I remember we would set up every week. We did this island, so we had like this. It was a single tree, and then we had this brown. It was like painter's backdrop or whatever. It was like that tan fabric. So we'd set this fabric up and get it all just situated right. And then we had these coins, and it was is cardboard that we spray painted gold.
Yeah.
And we had a bucket of them, and then we would just toss them out and sprinkle them over the island. And that was like they were going there every week. Yeah. They'd point there, and it was like kitty corner across the room from the boat, and it was like. And then I think when they actually went to the island, I think we changed the whole room or something to look like the island.
Well, it's just like you said, it's cardboard and pallets, and you don't have to have simple, a great budget. And one thing too that we did, I can't remember what theme we started doing this. We had a gentleman in the church that was a really talented artist, and it took him some time, but we got was it drop cloth or was it something more heavy duty, the stuff we would hang?
It was Tyvek house wrap.
Yeah. And he painted, I mean, I don't know how many linear feet. So it took him some time, but our whole scene setter, I believe, was all painted by him.
Yeah, it was, well, they were roughly 8 feet tall by 30 feet long.
Yeah.
And I actually, he showed me some tricks and stuff that I didn't know, like about layering and stuff with painting, and I'm not an artist at all.
No, me either.
But I remember we'd have people that didn't know what they were doing down there.
Yeah.
Painting and he'd like, oh no, over there you need to change that, and he'd fix stuff all the time.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's just an idea. If you have somebody that is inclined, they could help out, or even you don't want to branch out too much in the community. But I know, like our kid's doctor's office, a lady volunteered to come down, and every room is a theme. It's more like fairy tale and like dwarfs and elves, that kind of thing. But every room is, even the ceiling is completely painted. She did it for free, just.
Because you wanted
to
contribute.
Help.
Yeah.
So there's always options.
Yeah, there's always options. And the thing is like you said, low budget. We do, big themes now, and our budget is bigger. And part of the reason why is a lot of the things that we build now are not just a decor item; they're interactive. So we build playgrounds. Like we might do a pirate's cave, but it also has slides and climbing walls and stuff like that. So it's a playground that's interactive with the theme. And so that costs money, lumber and that kind of thing. But you can there's so many creative things that you can do. And I guess with the point of, embrace the epicness, it's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest thing, that's why we do that. Whatever money it does cost, and then the time that we put in, it's so much better when kids walk into a classroom, and I talk about this all the time about immersive decor, where they walk in and they're transported to another world.
Yeah.
When they're transported and they can suspend that disbelief for an hour, where they're just like, oh, this is so
I am
cool.
in Narnia.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here. There's snow coming down, and just, I mean, and so if you are doing, even if you're just doing like, you're going to focus on a Bible story today, and you have a small classroom with a handful of kids
Yeah.
that you're going to teach, even at that level, even if it's not like interactive because you got a little, 10 by 10 classroom,
Yeah.
you can still, I mean, in one way, it's easier to decorate because it's small.
Sure.
You don't have as much to do,
Yeah.
and so there's much wall space to cover. And so if you can do that and make it epic, where somebody walks in and they're just like, "Whoa!" I remember our first pirate theme that we ever did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you were in that too. I remember because I have a picture of you when you busted your lip or something in practice.
Yeah.
But in that first pirate theme, that was when we set up every week and took down every week in the fellowship hall. But I remember a guest coming, and they came back there to drop their kid off or whatever. And then he kind of, it was the dad, and he kind of like left abruptly. And I knew he was going to leave because they were just dropping their kid off, but they kind of left abruptly. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, I better make sure everything's okay.
Sure.
So I kind of rushed out, followed him. I was like, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm going to get my wife. She's got to see this.
Yeah.
And so it was epic enough. They walked in,
Sure.
they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
it was really cool.
And that's a huge thing. I mean, even for outreach, and when the parents finally do come with kids that come on the bus,
Yeah.
the kids go home mesmerized and talking about it, and the parents come see it, and it's
they're like, I got to
and
see
these
this. My
people
kids have
mean-
been talking
yeah,
about it.
these people mean business.
Yeah. All right. So this kind of goes into another thing is I was thinking of props. And so I wrote number 3, if the character thinks it's important, then it is.
Oh, yes.
And so going back to your rat idea, I mean, if they're scared of it, then it's scary.
Yeah.
And the thing is I'm thinking of a little boy in our Sunday school that gets scared.
Every Sunday.
And, yeah. And so if you are scared of a bug, he is going to be scared. It doesn't matter. He's just going to be scared. But the thing is we can take, going back to just what we were talking about with decor, there's epic props. Sometimes we do these scene setters we order, and they're humongous, big. I think we have a space scene setter that's like 14 feet tall by 48 feet wide, or whatever, standard billboard size. So that's huge, that's really big. And so a lot of times we do like 8 foot by 30 foot or 12 by 20. And so these are big scene setters, and they're epic. But the thing is you can take something simple, and if you create, like backstory or just the way you react to it, then you draw the kids in, and, and that can become so important. That little notebook, that little whatever it is, and it's just like, oh no, they stole the notebook. You know? Do you remember your brother Joey Boggs was some kind of detective? This is years ago, and he had had this teddy bear.
Oh, yes.
And the teddy bear got kidnapped or lost or something. And so I don't remember all the details, but it was like this big deal. So all the kids wanted to find Detective, whatever teddy bear. They wanted to find his teddy bear because it was so important.
Yes.
So you could take these little things that, like, just simple little props, and make them so important. And then on the other side of that, I think, or on the flip side of that, is we do grab a lot of things last minute, especially like the doctors or whatever. We'll grab things last minute and be like, this is really important or whatever. Just in our spy theme, Brother Brent was a professor. What was it? Professor
Benson?
Benson, yeah, Professor Benson. He was going out for, I think it was offering or something. Well, we had this, some kind of little briefcase. I think it was a mic case or something. And so he grabs it. His segment's coming up, but he grabs a piece of tape, puts it across there, and writes "top secret" on there. Well, it became a thing, kind of like we were talking about in the first thing about amplifying small things. It became a thing. So every time he was coming out, he was like have this briefcase, top secret, and I think it was Plan of Salvation or something, but all the kids knew, like, oh, Plan of Salvation, and so he would bring that out every time. But anyway, so what I was going to say on the flip side is we grab a lot of things last minute, but it is better if you can plan just a little bit. It doesn't have to cost all kinds of money or even take all kinds of time.
Right.
But if you pre-plan just a little bit, like the briefcase idea, if you pre-plan and like, hey, every time we open it, there's going to be a light glowing out of it or something, and so you just pre-plan a little bit, it can make it epic.
Absolutely.
Like it's totally, especially if it's unexpected, and the kids see that and they're just like, whoa, how did that, it's funny. Part of this podcast stemmed from, I have 3 kids, but my youngest is in Sunday school. He's 7 and a half. And he'll ask me questions about stuff that happened on Sunday that sometimes is not like at all what I would have thought the focus would be. And so it's kind of those, you got to remember what captures a kid's attention.
Right.
It's not always what we think is important.
Yeah.
So they see like these little things, and so talking about the unexpected, number 4 is highlight the unexpected.
Oh yeah.
And so instead of it being, just this like if you trip for real, instead of covering it up, highlight it, make it a big
do an extra
deal.
roll.
Yeah, exactly. Make it a big deal because kids love that and they do notice, and so they love that stuff.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, there was certain things, like even people that I looked up to. I remember there was this one guy that I really looked up to, and I thought he was a spy. And I really thought he was just so cool. And there would be little things that he would do that I would try to emulate. I mean, it could be as simple, I don't remember anything really specific, but it could be as simple as the way he might run his hand through his hair or something, and I'd be like, try to do it. It'll be all cool. And so, in fact, he was the one. I'm right-handed, and I would always wear my watch on my right hand, like most kids will do when they start out. And he was the one that he wore his watch on his left wrist, so I wore my watch. I changed it over and wore my watch on my left wrist.
Okay, embarrassing time. I got to cut in here.
Okay, here we go. Yes.
So, same exact situation that he's talking about, I had with this guy. So, I remember him blowing my mind many times. Like, I can't remember where we went. I think you took me to lunch, and like we went to your house for some reason to iron a shirt or something before church. It was like in between services, and I was young. I was like, I don't know if it was planned. I don't know. I don't even know the situation, but I went with you, and it was like I just majorly looked up to you. And this was before you even had any kind of position. Okay. And I remember you had one of your boat cars. I don't know if you had more than one.
What was it?
Your car. That was like
car,
a huge car.
Yes, Pontiac Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it was just so cool. And you had some kind of bag, and I still to this day use a bag. But you had a bag, and you wore. It must have been in the winter because you had driving gloves.
Oh, that's funny.
And you had like overcoat, and I remember going home and could not wait to go to the store, and we bought leather gloves, and I lived here in the church property. And so it was like a 100-yard walk, and I had a square grandpa briefcase that my dad bought me.
Oh, wow.
And I remember having an overcoat, driving gloves, briefcase, walking to church, 100 yards.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So things do matter. I had to bring that up. Sorry.
That is funny. I had no idea. Wow.
First time I ever heard gospel music was in his car, and it blew my mind.
And to think, and now you're like a musician and all kinds of stuff, lead songs.
It matters.
Wow. Yeah. So, and there's a whole nother podcast is we never know the impression we're making.
Oh man.
I tell my older kids that all the time. My son's 17 and my daughter's 20. And
wow.
I'm like, you never know. And I would tell them that from the time that they were quite a bit younger, like young teens, because they both, have had influence. Yeah. And I'm like, you don't know, somebody's watching, you know.
Yeah, I remember just a few short years ago, my daughter, she's 13 now, and so like Shaylee and Anisha, it's so funny to think they were both in my wedding, and they were like little girls, just mind blowing. But I remember walking by her bedroom when she had a friend over, and they were playing choir. And one's like, okay, this time I'm Anisha and you're Shaylee. And they were like doing like the same movements that they would do. And I told them both right after that. It's like, you guys don't even know.
You don't know. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure she would be devastated that you said that and be really embarrassed, your daughter.
Oh yeah.
But she even still like gets all kinds of clothes from Anisha.
Oh yeah, and she loves it. She's like, I got another bag from Anisha. I know it's all gonna be good. Yep.
That's cool. That's really cool. So yeah, all these things, we're talking about highlight the unexpected, but there's impressions, and I guess if you can remember that, and like I said, this stemmed from my young son. Like asking questions sometimes unexpected, questions about little details. And so to me, it makes me think of two levels. It makes me think of like, we need to be on point with every little thing that we do, because what a powerful impact we can have if we're on point on everything. And then it also makes me think if we can remember, like in a practice or something, if we can remember that the important things, the funny things, whatever it is, that kids will pick up on it and they will love it and sometimes try to emulate it.
Absolutely.
And we did a spy theme a while. I mean, it's been quite a while ago, and we still have, my son being one of them, these kids running around with walkie-talkies after church.
Yeah, he was doing it today.
So the other night, it was so funny. This is another sidebar. I know we got to wrap up, but the other night, I was looking for Anisha, and I look up, and up by the front pews, I see Anisha and Shaylee, and they got this walkie-talkie, and then I look down, and there's, I think it was Ashton, my son, and they're talking to some kid outside, on the they're in the sanctuary. They're on these walkie-talkies. So, yeah, and that can have a powerful impact negatively too. So you got to be careful, what you do.
Yeah.
All right, to recap a little bit. So number one, amplify small things.
Yes.
Make those small things, make them big. You can build a whole scene off of a little
quip.
I mean, and like Bible stories, you can do. You could spend like a whole month on just David and Goliath. Not even David's story. Obviously, David's story would be a whole year.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to, you could highlight like stuff about the stones, and you could
armor. Him trying to wear this armor that's like 18 sizes too big.
Yeah,
and why that's important.
Goliath's perspective.
Yes.
And so there's just so much you can do with little details. And then number two, creating a visual spectacle. And of course, we're all about doing big themes and backdrops and cool stuff. And so if you have the budget for it and the time for it, do it big. If you feel like you don't have the budget and feel like you don't have the time, I challenge that.
Absolutely.
And spend $25 and you might be surprised at what you can do. Or ask for donations. I don't mean of money, of things,
costumes and material.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've gotten to the point now where a lot of times we turn away donations because we don't want junk in our Sunday school.
Yeah. So we've been there.
But people, like, they'll people have seen our Sunday school, and sometimes they'll text me a picture of something at a thrift store. Yeah. Do you want this? So they're thinking of us because it's so cool, and we get some cool stuff.
That's huge.
And number three, if the character thinks it's important, then it is.
Absolutely.
So how you react to a prop can be what makes it or breaks it.
Yeah.
And then number four, highlight the unexpected. If you trip and fall, or if you mess up a word in the memory verse, mess it up every time.
Every single time, and the kids will correct you.
Yeah, and so make it funny and everything. Okay, well, we are pushing the limit for other things that we got to go do. Yes. So that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.